Hello! Pictomancer is a caster that specializes in flexibility and fight-based optimization. The job has a variety of abilities with different effects and cast times, ranging from extremely long to instant cast, and almost no set order in which to use the abilities outside of burst phase. Pictomancer does not have a rigid, set rotation. Instead, the goal of Pictomancer is to order your abilities such that you are always casting something. No ability or resource is unused, and your highly damaging abilities are available during your 2-minute burst. This leads to Pictomancer having a checklist of things that need to happen between bursts arranged in a priority list instead of a set rotation. Before we begin, let's run through some pros and cons of the job. But first, a quick disclaimer. The purpose of this is to help you figure out if you would enjoy the job, not how good or bad the job is. Play whatever job you want to play, no matter what job you think is best. Pictomancer is a job that rewards fight knowledge greatly. The more you know the boss you're going up against, the more you can use your skills to allow you to keep up damage. The fight has a lot to do during downtime. Many of the job's mechanics can be used while the boss is invulnerable, giving you something to do almost all the time. The job also does big numbers. Now, I'm not saying the job does a lot of damage. When you're watching this, the job's overall damage compared to other jobs might be more, or might be less, but that doesn't really matter. What matters is, because of the job's unique playstyle, the job has many instances of its damage being packed into a few potent GCDs, which always hit very hard. If you like seeing big number, this job will basically always give you big number, regardless of how good or bad it might be in the meta. However, with the job's pros comes some cons. The job is not very fast, instead favoring slower, deliberate gameplay with a few off-global cooldowns, as opposed to fast action spam. The job is also quite cast time dependent. There are periods where you're going to need to be casting for a while on end without a lot of time for movement. The job does have tools to move if it needs to, but they are limited and need to be used carefully, meaning cast times are always on your mind. The job also has no set rotation, meaning decision-making needs to change from fight to fight or be made on the fly. This isn't a job you can just memorize the correct sequence of actions and come out on top. Let's start at the bottom of Pictomancer's priority list. Your most basic combat option is your basic combo: fire in red, arrow in green, and water in blue. These abilities are condensed into a single button that you can spam endlessly. This is your filler, the thing you use when you have nothing else to do. Using your full combo grants you 25 gauge and 1 white paint. We'll deal with the gauge in a second, but let's deal with the white paint first. You spend this white paint on Holy in White, an instant cast damage spell that is very importantly less damage than your basic combo. Not by a lot, mind you, less than 1% in fact, but if you can, you will gain more damage by spamming your basic combo. That doesn't mean Holy in White is useless, however. The reason Holy in White exists is because it has no cast time. Almost every other spell the class offers has a cast time, and Holy in White can be used without interrupting any combos currently in progress. This means that these charges can be used as movement tools. If you're standing in an AoE, you can use Holy in White to buy yourself the time to move out of it. If there's ever a situation where you would lose a cast because you needed to move, Holy in White is there for you. Don't let the skill's lower potency stop you from using it. Holy in White is your friend, and if you have no other choice to let you move, it's a very effective tool in your arsenal. Now, let's come back to that gauge. You gain 25 gauge per completed basic combo and can store up to 100. Using 50, you can flip your palette and access 1 usage of your negative combo. This combo deals significantly more damage and generates a white paint upon completion, but has a significantly longer cast time. This means that if movement is required in the future, it's a lot harder to finish your casts with your flipped palette. In addition, one white paint is converted into black paint, which can be used on Meteor in black. This spell has all the benefits of Holy in White, but is damage positive to use, and it locks you out of Holy in White while you can use it. If you have no white paint upon flipping your palette, the next white paint you generate will be black paint instead, so you always get a chance to use this spell no matter when you flip your palette. The only exception is if you already have black paint, as you can only have one black paint at a time. All this really means is that you can delay using Comet until you need to use it to give yourself time to move, same as Holy in White, but you never want to waste a charge by flipping your palette while you already have a Meteor. Use it, don't waste it. This is the basic filler of your job. Use your basic combo to gain resources, then spend those resources to move while still dealing damage, and deal more damage when you don't need to move. Beyond this basic system, we have the central mechanic of the job, paintings. You have 3 canvases, which are each tied to separate powerful abilities. To use these abilities, you first must paint your canvas, which requires a very long cast time. These canvases then remain painted until you decide to use your powerful abilities. This means you can prep these abilities long in advance of when you need to use them, during times where you can stand still for several seconds without dying to be deployed when you need them later in the fight. The best example of this is the hammer combo, tied to this middle canvas. Once painted, you can activate it at any time to gain access to a 3-hit hammer combo that does very good damage while also having no cast time. This combo can also be broken up. For example, you could use the first hammer ability to dodge an AoE, then do a full palette combo before using the hammer again to dodge another AoE. As long as you use it 3 times in 30 seconds, you can use it whenever you feel like. This, along with its high potencies and guaranteed crit direct hits, make it one of the most potent tools in your arsenal. Its 60-second cooldown and 2 charges mean that, while one use is reserved for your burst, the other can happen at basically any point between burst phases. If you know you're going to need to move a lot in a short amount of time, Hammer Combo is for you. Your other major canvas is the left one. This is your creature canvas, tied to one of the only off-global cooldowns in your kit. This OGCD is actually 4 separate OGCDs, but they all work exactly the same, so I will be talking about them as a block. They all do a large burst of damage when used, and once you use 2 of them, you gain access to a second off-global cooldown that does even more damage in a line. The first time you gain a usage of this skill, it's a Moogle, and the second time, it's a Medine, and Medine does more damage. Now, these creature canvas skills only have a 40-second cooldown and 3 charges, which essentially means that any time you can stand still for 3 seconds, you can turn it into very high damage. Feel free to spam it as much as you want, but remember that you want to be able to use it and the Medine during burst phase if possible, so keeping 1 charge in reserve isn't a bad idea. In case you're wondering about burst phase, I will cover it more later, so hold on to your questions for now. Finally, our last canvas, the landscape canvas, and its associated ability, Starring Muse. The text on this ability is long, so let's break it down into sections. First, a raid-wide damage buff. You've seen these before, you'll see them again. Second, you can use Star Prism, a powerful GCD nuke. Third, you get a free usage of your flipped palette. Finally, the ability places down a patch of grass. While standing in the grass, the next 5 non-hammer GCDs you use are faster. Once the grass is fully used up, you get a free usage of the skill Rainbow Drip, which we will talk about more in a second, but is basically just free damage. This essentially makes this ability a version of Blackmage Ley Lines that trades a shorter duration for a larger area and grants the party a damage buff. And it's what defines Pictomancer 2-minute burst windows. At some point between bursts, you will need to take time out to paint your canvas so you can burst, but otherwise you mostly just use it off cooldown. This is the core of the job. Paint your 3 canvases to give yourself high damage, damage and movement, and your 2-minute burst. When you don't have a canvas to paint, use your basic rotation to build up charges of free movement and build your gauge to gain access to your more powerful, longer cast time combo. Before we get into burst phase and openers, we have a couple of straggling abilities to cover. First is Rainbow Drip. This is a damage button with an incredibly long cast time. Its long cast time means it's a damage lost in most scenarios, except for 3. First, before the boss is pulled, you can use this to get a bunch of free damage. Second, during your burst, you get a free usage of this ability with a significantly lower recast time, which makes this ability worth using. Third, if the boss is about to go invulnerable, you can use Swift Cast to gain some final burst damage, while the long recast time happens while the boss is invulnerable anyway. Outside of these specific scenarios, you can mostly just ignore this button. To help with the job's limited movement, they also have 2 supportive abilities. First is Smudge, a long-range dash that provides a mini sprint on a very short cooldown. This is now one of my favorite abilities in the game, and since you have time to weave an off-global cooldown after almost every cast, you can use Smudge to get yourself to safety instead of needing to spend a movement ability. Its low recast time means it can, and should, be used incredibly frequently. Go ham with this one. Finally, you have a personal shield in Tempura Coat. This says it has a 2-minute cooldown, but if the shield is fully consumed, it goes down to 1 minute. However, you can reactivate the ability to spread the shield to your allies, and if this shield is consumed, the cooldown is reduced to 90 seconds instead. In general, you're going to want to use the AoE version of this. There aren't many situations where a shield placed specifically on yourself saves the healer any heals. If they need to AoE heal everyone, even if your health is higher than the rest of your party, that just means you're going to get overhealed. As such, it's better to just use the AoE shield when you know a raid wide is about to happen. Whew! Okay, that's a lot to take in. It's okay if you don't remember every ability in specific. The flow is what's important. You have your creature canvas for off-global cooldown damage, your hammer canvas for damage and movement, and your landscape canvas to buff your 2-minute window. Between those, you have your light combo to generate resources and your flipped palette to spend them. You also have some defensive utility options and a situational damage button. So, how do we handle our burst phase? The 20 seconds of buffs gives us time for, at most, 9 of our GCDs, assuming 5 of them are sped up by your grass. If something goes wrong, you end up with 8, but if you focus and don't need to move, you can make a 9th GCD, especially if you cast your raid buff to the end of your recast timer. So, 9 GCDs, what should they be? Star Prism is your most damaging GCD, so it earns its place. Your free flipped palette also gives you 4 more GCDs, totaling 5. That will completely consume our grass and give us a free usage of Rainbow Drip, a powerful skill worth using. Finally, our hammer combo is the highest potency thing we can do, which conveniently fills our last 3 GCDs. It's also important to fit in our creature canvas OGCD and a Medine if possible. The important thing to know about this is that this is only a suggested order of skills. Most of these are not dependent on each other, so you can refit and reorganize them as you need to deal with boss mechanics. Just make sure your full dark palette plus common and star prism are used inside your grass area and your golden. You can optimize this further, however. The easy optimization is to put a rainbow drip at the end of your burst. It's the GCD that will be least missed if it's unbuffed, so saving it for last means you don't lose DPS. The more complex optimization actually happens before burst. See, this ice cast here is really annoying. It's the lowest potency ability in our burst, but we can't drop it because we need that 5th cast for the free rainbow drip. However, there is actually something we can do. You see, your place in your combo is preserved when you flip your palette. If you're on the 2nd hit of your basic combo and flip your palette, then you'll start your palette combo on its 2nd hit. Also, remember that you get a comet every time you flip your palette. This means that if you're really careful about your timings and use Holy and White to stall your combo, you can set yourself up to use 2 comets in a burst, ideally while also using Stone and Thunder. This is very difficult to execute perfectly, as it requires planning a while in advance with fairly precise GCD timings, but if you can perform it, it helps your burst punch even harder. There is also an alternate burst phase, this one. This burst phase prioritizes putting all 3 of the Creature Muse charges you gain over 2 minutes into burst. It has slightly easier execution requirements and requires you to paint less between burst phases, but is a slight DPS loss over the other burst option. Honesty time, I'm not a fan of this burst phase, mostly because it eats your swift cast while not actually giving you a DPS gain or significantly lowering skill requirements. It's a decent tool in your arsenal to have when you know the time between burst phases will be packed, but I'm not a fan of it in and of itself, and I recommend you practice the other burst phase more. As for the opener, it's going to look like this. The long cast time of Rainbow Drip doesn't matter because it's happening before we pull the boss, so its damage is very welcome, and it gives us a usage of Holy so we can double weave here. Then we paint again here because we want a usage of Moogle during our burst, while also delaying the start of our bursts to match other jobs. We then use our hammer first to allow us to weave our palette flip in when we need to. Again, you can change the orders of these skills as you need, so long as you use Rainbow Drip last. Between bursts, we have a checklist of things to accomplish. We need to paint our landscape so we have access to Starry Muse. We need to have a Hammer combo, Creature OGCD, and a Medine or Moogle ready for burst. To avoid overcapping on resources, we also need to use our Hammer combo once and our Creature Muse twice between bursts. Beyond that, it's just a matter of using our basic combo to fill space. Some general tips. First, practice your slide casting. If you don't know, while movement normally cancels spellcasting, if you move near the very end of a cast, you can begin moving without canceling the spell. This is very useful because all of Pictomancer's casts have a small amount of time to weave at the end, which can be used for movement. This can also help you correct positioning and avoid needing to spend movement resources. This is a very useful skill to develop. Use charges to your advantage. I know a skill being off cooldown and able to be used is very tempting, but all resources and abilities you have can be stocked and stored for a while. Don't feel pressured to use something unless it's about to overcap or you find a good time to use it. This applies especially to Moogle and Medine. You can use a Creature Muse and still keep these available, so long as that Creature Muse wouldn't produce the other one of the two. This allows you to hold on to these for quite some time, and allow them to fall into burst. Using your personal shield and switching to an AoE shield both take a weave. This means that trying to do both immediately is going to clip your GCD. If you can, make sure you split them into separate weaves or use Holy to make sure you have time to avoid clipping. Speaking of Holy, if you never need to move, it's okay to never use Holy. I know it feels bad to waste resources, and seeing your white paint capped makes it feel like you need to use it, but remember, it's a DPS loss to use it unless you're using it for movement. It's perfectly fine to let white paint overcap, because you're doing more damage by letting it overcap than by forcing yourself to use it. That being said, there is one circumstance where Holy is a damage gain, which is when enemies would not survive your full basic combo. Using your basic combo only becomes a damage gain if you cast Water in Blue. If the enemy will only survive 1 or 2 more GCDs, using Holy in White will be a damage gain. Swiftcast is your friend, and on top of that, Swiftcast is really useful when you're painting a canvas. This doesn't increase your DPS because you don't have off-global cooldowns to weave in during that time, but what it does give you is a full 3 seconds where you can move without losing DPS. If a movement-intense mechanic is coming up, swift casting a painting and then using a full hammer combo gives you close to 10 seconds of completely uninterrupted movement without needing to dig into your supply of white paint. If you have time to fully execute the canvas you're painting, it's a damage gain. So, for example, if you're wondering if you should paint another hammer combo, then as long as your target will survive long enough to take the full 3-hit combo, it's a damage gain and worth doing. However, if they won't, then there's no point in doing the painting. This applies most to your landscape painting. If the boss you're fighting won't live to see another 2-minute burst, there's no point in painting the landscape painting. It's important to remember that, during Burst, you can use Hammer outside of your grass patch without losing DPS. If your grass patch is covered in an AoE, you can use your Hammer combo to buy yourself time to move back in without lowering your burst damage output at all. And that's my job guide. If you want to know my subjective thoughts and opinions about the job, then check the description and I will put it right up there. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments. I'll also be making guides for the other jobs as I level them, so if you're interested in that, please subscribe. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope you have a great day.